All right, back again on the CA podcast after a 1 week hiatus. Again, sorry about the missing of a week there, but it did give us a chance to step back and take a look at some things. We just finished week 4 in the Cooler Phobics Anonymous. Believe it or not, we are flying through things. So it's Tuesday night. We had a really interesting Monday night last night. It kind of affected how we stand with the power rankings. So we'll get started with that. Coming in last in the power rankings, to no one's surprise, Brian Deutsch in at number 12. Congratulations should be given to Brian for notching his first win in the season. Granted, it was only by 5 points over Plotzker's moribund team, but still, I mean, you can cancel the post-game show. He avoided a fruiting. So Darren McFadden's slow start is kind of plaguing Deutsch's team. He's not really getting much from his quarterbacks, so I don't know. With Jake Locker going down with an injury, it looks like he's going to miss a couple of weeks. Deutsch can almost taste that foam brick. In at number 11, Justin Deutsch. Justin put up the lowest point total in the league this week and really got his ass handed to him. He got a third of his points from Matt Ryan. Had to suffer through 2.6 points from Ryan Williams, 1.8 points from Russell Wilson, and a big goose egg from Dennis Pitta, who had been pretty good lately. So, ouch, Justin. In at number 10, Jason Plotzker. Each week, when I'm kind of researching the power rankings, I arrive at Plotzker's spot. It's the bottom third or fourth. I don't really know what to say. I normally rip teams for bad lineup decisions or faulty draft picks, but with Plotzker, he actually had a pretty nice team lined up for himself before he and Arielle killed a bottle of Jack Daniels, and he traded them all away. So the real criticism of Plotz can't really take place until the 2013 season. But I will continue to find humorous ways to mock him. In at number 9, Arielle. He might have a 5-3 record, but he's getting by on luck so far, it seems. Arielle went 2-0 this past weekend. He beat Plotzker and Smith, but he would have lost to any other non-Deutsch team. Acquiring Eli Manning from drunken Plotzker has proved to be a pretty wise move, but keeping Ryan Matthews is sort of turning into a real dud. Ryan Matthews, say what you will about his potential, but here we are 4 weeks into the season, and he has been absolutely worthless. So the rest of Arielle's roster is kind of empty. I don't know. Let's hope he doesn't get too comfortable with these 2-0 weekends. Number 8, Ben. Ben's team is kind of an enigma to me at this point in the season. He sits at 500. He's lacking pretty severely in total points. Peyton Manning has definitely delivered on his draft status. Andy Dalton has been a real pleasant surprise for Ben. You have to love Ben's running back core. Trent Richardson, Cedric Benson, LaShawn McCoy, D'Angelo Williams is his fourth back. That's about as good a unit as anyone has in the league. To date, Ben's guys just haven't really been able to string their kind of big performances, big games together. I'd keep my eye on Ben as kind of a deep sleeper for the rest of the season. At this point, he's not too high in the power rankings, but definitely has some room to grow. Number 7, Andrew Oakes. Andy was, really the victim of some bad luck this week. He lost to Billy by 0.36 points. That is, just about the smallest margin anyone's ever lost by. It's pretty bad. If I remember correctly, I think Denenberg might have lost by like 0.2 a couple of years ago. But, obviously losing by less than half a point is hard to swallow. Really that retarded Santonio Holmes, trip and fall giveaway was kind of the difference between winning and losing, which is, difficult to take. Oakes can, feel confident in Rodgers and Newton. It's not 2 weeks in a row that those two have strung together big games. Obviously, that's why he drafted them, so he can definitely feel confident in those two. Arian Foster's the best player in fantasy football. There's really no arguing that. He is a touchdown lock every week, and, he's just a great player to have. When you look at the rest of Oakes' team, however, you can kind of understand why he lost 5 matchups in a row before beating Ben this past weekend. His wide receiver position is, I don't know, it's pretty depressing, honestly, especially with Holmes now facing this pretty serious injury. It looks like he's going to miss a few weeks. He has Kevin Ogletree and Sidney Rice, and he has the ghost of Kenny Britt. And if you'll indulge me, I'd like to take a minute to talk about Kenny Britt. I just feel like, as a big fantasy football fan, I read fantasy football blogs, I listen to fantasy football podcasts, and people just continually talk about Kenny Britt. I don't even understand why people mention his name. Why is he being ranked from a week-to-week basis? He's not a real player. He can't play. He can't run or walk or do anything. I feel like I understand he's been on the field at some points in the season, but really he had one game against the Eagles like 2 years ago where he caught 3 touchdowns, and he's supposed to be some kind of excellent upside sleeper, but he's terrible. He can't. His leg is unusable. He's going to be in a wheelchair by the time he's like 24. It's like Mark Pryor with the Cubs. It was like you have one good year, and people are just continually. They still talk about him. You still hear about Mark Pryor this year. And it's like, if you can't play, if you can't physically take the field, at what point do you become a legitimate threat in fantasy? So Kenny Britt is absolutely worthless. I don't know. You literally could not pay me enough to draft him ever. I don't understand why Oaks would have him, but with the rest of his wide receivers, I guess maybe it pays to keep him on the hope that he can suddenly grow a third leg and break out. But really, if one of Oaks' big four, Peterson, Foster, or Newton or Rogers, goes down to injury, his season is over. Number 6 in the power rankings, Billy Boris. This Monday night really brought the return of Bad Luck Billy. Billy had the pleasure of watching his favorite real-life and fantasy defense, the Bears, score 2 wonderful, entertaining, amazing touchdowns and generate a number of turnovers. While he was so excited watching the Bears win, he had to suffer through Jason Witten scoring a garbage time touchdown for the ages and ended up losing to me. It should be noted that the touchdown actually was just the icing on the cake. In fact, it was a meaningless 10-yard completion earlier in the drive that actually put me ahead. I received a text message from Billy so quickly after that catch that I feel like Billy had already pre-typed it and was just waiting to send it until Witten put me over the top. Billy does have a good team, a really good team. He's getting consistently big numbers from Drew Brees. Drew Brees, I think, to date is probably the best quarterback in fantasy. He's still kind of struggling. Billy's kind of struggling to get to recover from his historically pathetic 53.8 point performance in week 2. Alfred Morris, is in the argument for waiver pickup of the year so far, so definitely give Billy some credit for that. This could be kind of a season-defining week for Bill as he is playing division-leading Denenberg, and we get round 2 of the Boris Bowl. So he is in the middle of the ranks right now, and we'll see how he goes depending what happens. Number 5, John Kraus. Kraus is currently leading the Lane Bryant division, but has scored significantly less total points than a number of other teams. His squad is solid. He made a very wise move starting Stephen Ridley this past week. I don't trust Phillip Rivers to stay consistent, and other than Marshall, Kraus doesn't have any real elite wide receivers. So it looks like Chris Johnson is getting back on track. If he can keep it up, Kraus obviously will be a competitor. Number 4, Andrew Smith, freshly back from Bavaria. Smith had his first bad weekend. Blame it on the Wiener Schnitzel, but Smith left 20 points from Kevin Cobb at his bench, while Carson Palmer limp-dicked his way to 8 points. Ray Rice kind of set the tone for a shitty week early by putting up single digits against the Browns. On Thursday Night Football, Smith has 2 big matchups this weekend against Oaks and Bootsy. He can hold on to his high spot in the rankings, obviously, if he has a good showing. In at number 3, myself. Really, one simple lineup change has defined my season so far. In week 3, I made the last-second decision to start Danny Amendola, who was coming off a 20-point fantasy performance the week before, over Torrey Smith, whose brother had tragically died like 12 hours before the Sunday Night Football game. I think anyone in the league would have made the same call. You don't even know if Torrey Smith was going to play, and he was really my only other option. So I had to put Amendola in there. Amendola, had a pretty good matchup against the Bears. So I just pulled the trigger on it. Torrey Smith obviously went off for 2 touchdowns. Amendola didn't do too much, and I lost by a narrow margin to both Kraus and Ben. Had I stuck with Torrey Smith in there, as I had him in there to begin with, I'd be in first place of the Lane Bryant division at 6-2. I'd have the second highest point total in the league behind only Bootsy. Even with that poor decision haunting me, I'm 1 game back with the 4th most points in the league. So Brady, Cutler, and Luck gives me the best quarterback core of anyone in the league. I would argue that Torrey Smith, Demaryius Thomas, Stevie Johnson, Amendola, and Justin Blackmon is my 5th. Gives me the best wide receiver core as well. Witten finally broke through, had a big Monday night. If he can kind of build up that, my team is definitely in it to win it, in it for a championship. So in at number 2, for the first time all season, Andrew Denenberg, not in the top spot. He is at number 2, despite Tony Romo making a run at the world record for pathetic shittiness on Monday Night Football, D was still able to hold on for a tight victory over Kraus. But he did finish 1-1 on the weekend. He only got 18 of the 35 points he needed to overtake Bootsy, and that's even including Romo and Miles Austin hooking up for a TD. Really, Romo's exceptional shittiness kind of sprinkles a little bit of reality on Denenberg's season. Definitely needs to bounce back, but the rest of his team is in pretty good shape. Obviously, had been undefeated up until this point. So, number 1, Bootsy. Bootsy, I believe this is his first time ever in the number one spot in the power ranking, so congratulations for that. Not only is Northwestern in the top 25 of college football for the first time in a while, Bootsy is at number one. So, he holds a commanding total points lead over all of us. He's won his last 6 matchups in a row. His quarterbacks, RG3 and Matt Stafford, really are fantasy monsters, both very good. Vincent Jackson just keeps putting it up. I really thought Vincent Jackson would be one of those dudes who would just sign his big money contract and just sort of, lay back and enjoy the sun down in Tampa. But he's really been really good, surprisingly. Bootsy has been getting nothing from the tight end position, and despite that, he's really been killing it. He even left 16 points from Dwayne Garbage Time Bowe on his bench. That being said, Bootsy does have some kind of injury-prone guys in his lineup, so, we'll see how well that can hold up. But for the time being, he has the best squad in the league, so congrats, Bootsy. Looking forward to Week 5. Crazy that it's Week 5 already. A couple of big matchups. Bootsy versus Smith. Smith kind of gets things cracking early in the week with Kevin Cobb on Thursday Night Football at the Rams, and he ends up wrapping up the matchup with the Jets D on Monday night. Bootsy's big quarterbacks have pretty ugly matchups. RG3 plays a good Atlanta defense, and Stafford is on a bye, so Bootsy is going to have to start Matt Castle against the Ravens, so enjoy that. Despite his kind of insistence on starting Robert Meacham, Smith should probably win this one off a pretty strong bounce-back game from Ray Rice. Billy versus Denenberg is another big matchup taking place in Week 5. Fortunately for Denenberg, Tony Romo is on a bye this week. Unfortunately, Denenberg doesn't have a third quarterback, so unless he drops big cash on Matt Hasselbeck, he's going to be forced into starting either Michael Bush or Daryl Richardson in his flex spot, so that doesn't bode very well for him. Billy, meanwhile, has Schaub and Andre Johnson on Monday Night Football. He has Breeze at home on Sunday Night Football. I would look for Bad Luck Billy. I think he's going to find some bizarre way of getting beat, something like Andre Johnson running in for a touchdown that would clinch it for the week, and then he pulls up with a bad hamstring or lupus, or Sputnik crashes on him or something like that. All right, time to open up the old mailbag. I had a couple of mailbag questions from last week that I didn't get to. Didn't get any new ones for this week, and these were both real winners. So we'll definitely be going way to the bottom of the old mailbag to answer these ones from last week. So first one coming in from a longtime listener, Twinkle Twinkle, Mr. Bauer. My question today concerns the topic of romance. 2 nights ago, I had a girl I was planning to meet for a drink that night call and cancel on me no less than an hour before. The reception on my phone was bad, but it sounded like her excuse was, I fell down a well. Do you think she was lying to me? Perhaps I misheard her and she said, I'm not feeling well. Are wells still a prominent thing in 2012? Do people fall down them still? Are you pro or anti-well? Twink. It's a very interesting question, Jason. Thank you for submitting it. The facts presented to me sort of leave me with really no choice but to assume that she threw herself down the well to avoid meeting up with you. So, I mean, this behavior, of course, is unacceptable. I don't really think the two things are mutually exclusive. She obviously would not be feeling well if she did fall down a well. I don't really know the location of too many wells in the Chicagoland area. That's kind of what's making it so hard to find this girl. At this point, I would say all we can really do is send our love down the well.
There's a hole in my heart, as deep as the well for that poor little boy who's stuck halfway to hell. No, we can't get him out, we'll do the next best thing. Go on TV and sing, sing, sing. And we're sending our love down the well. All the way down. We're sending our love down the well. Down that well.
That's for that girl, that nameless girl trapped down the well, trying to avoid a date with Plotsker. All right, next letter. Hey, tough luck last week, but this is a long one, by the way, I should warn you. Hey, tough luck last week. We'll see if it ends up getting changed. This is Kraus referring to the Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown fumble Rooski. Honestly, though, there seems like there will be a ton of parity in our league this year. None of the teams, even Denenberg's, really stands out. My questions: best worst trade so far? I nominate the Nelson for Wallace for Wallace and $19. Biggest draft day busts? I nominate Chris Johnson. So frustrated with him. He was a consensus top 5 running back preseason and had a good preseason. I, like everyone else, thought he'd bounce back in a big way. How did the dude ever rush for 2,000 yards? In fairness, his O-line and general blocking scheme is awful. He had like 4 plays for -7 rush yards where he literally got tackled as he was getting handed the ball. How bad are these pickups? Tashard Choice, $10. They're saying Fred Jackson and even possibly C.J. Spiller will play this week. Plus, Deberg wouldn't play him even if he was the starter. He's only got value for this week, most likely. Sean Hill for $25. What? Stafford is probably going to play. Rumor is they took him out only because he had a minor injury and the Lions were getting blown out. Even if Hill plays, there's no way it's more than 1 week, and would it really be that big of an upgrade over Locker or Freeman? Maybe a fourth of your budget for just 1 week. Ogletree, $19. Pats D, $15. All right, well, thank you, Kraus. This is a very disjointed and very long mailbag question, but I appreciate the effort. We all know that the Antonio Brown bullshit was fumble recovery and not a touchdown, so whatever, but enjoy your ill-begotten victory. As I touched upon earlier in the podcast, if stupid Torrey Smith's brother wouldn't have died, I would have beaten you anyways, so spare me the condolences. I agree that there does appear to be a high degree of parity in the league so far, but it's also very early. Even this past week, in a week since this email has been written, we've started to see some separation. Bootsy is, obviously kind of taken over a little bit. So let's not forget the skill level in this league is double black diamond. Definitely, not to be trifled with. I normally like to leave any type of declarations like this until the award ceremony at the end of the year, but I will take time to point at the recent trade between you and Arielle, actually. I don't think it was a very good trade at all. Obviously I would hesitate to call it the worst trade of the year, but DeMarco Murray has done nothing really to prove that he'll be the top 10 running back or top 5 running back. Everyone kind of treats him as. You're giving up Stephen Ridley, who's been really hot so far, and Sam Bradford, who's a quarterback with a lot of upside, decent keeper value. Obviously a lot remains to be seen. DeMarco Murray actually didn't play so well last night, but I think you may have screwed yourself a little bit there. Chris Johnson, of course, it was a big breakout week just a few days after you sent the email. But yes, considering you paid $86 for him, I would say he's definitely been the most expensive disappointment to date. Obviously, there's a lot of season left, so we'll see if he can bounce back. Tashard Choice for $10, that was probably a waste, but not really the end of the world. If Fred Jackson would have had a setback, Choice would have been pretty valuable that week. Sean Hill for $25 is definitely completely retarded, but it's not a season ruiner. Keeping him on the roster is important. Stafford obviously is a guy with some injury history, so might turn out to be worthwhile. Ogletree I think was a really good pickup. I still believe in him. Even though Romo is pretty shitty. Honestly, the Pats D for $15 is one of the worst pickups this league has seen in a while. It's surprising that a normally intelligent fantasy player like Oaks would violate the time-honored tradition of treating defenses like meaningless shit. All right, guys. Well, thank you for the mailbag. Again, my apologies for no podcast last week, but hope you guys enjoyed this one. Good luck this weekend. It was a lot of fun watching the Bears bring home a big victory last night, and hopefully they can get it done against the Jags this weekend as well, with a little bit of extra attention paid to Maurice Jones-Drew for talking shit about Jay Cutler in the NFC Championship. So I'll be looking for that. Be looking for some big fantasy scores this weekend. Good luck. Thanks.